Hey guys, welcome to our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 spoiler talk.
We have a lot to talk about for this one. Turns out Ego is the villain overall, and took me a while to get to it though. Yeah, so Ego comes up, shows up to Peter Quill, and like, I'm your dad, Peter. And it's like, great, here's the movie.
Yep, so we've learnt the origin of Peter now, so he's only half human.
And half god.
Half celestial.
Celestial, yeah. The weird part of this movie was that half of the crew got split off into this section of the movie, and the other half into the other section. That's what we kind of goaded about in the review section, right?
Yeah, it's, you want all the team together. That's where all the banter's at its best between the crew. And, I mean, it was nice to have some moments with the characters, sharing information they normally wouldn't with some of the others. But,
it's a very somber story, but like very paced out very badly because of all the just because they were split in half. Basically, it's two stories going on at once, and with oddly enough the third party, the gold people, like the sovereign sort of thing, yeah, which didn't really play out that well in the movie until the end credit scenes, which we'll talk about later. But yeah,
they just felt like a nuisance, really.
Yeah, they were.
It's like, the story's going on, it's like, oh, okay, just interrupt. No worries.
You don't really understand what's going on until the end credit scenes. But Drax, everyone's backstory kind of gets fleshed out a bit. Everyone has their moments in the movies. Gamora with Nebula as the siblings. Sibling rivalry, sibling love sort of thing.
Yeah, so you sort of understand why Nebula's pretty cranky all the time.
Yeah, you have Rocket and Groot with Yondu, who become like kindred spirits because, they are the same, people really.
Yeah.
Same upbringing. And like, you really connect with Yondu's character and how Rocket looks to him as like a lost soulmate sort of thing. And we have Peter, Star-Lord, connecting with his dad.
Yeah, what we think is a nice family reunion, but just being used.
Yeah, there was a good part of the movie, just like, what's going on? Like, is there a villain in this movie? Like, is it the gold people? And then eventually turns out that, Ego is the big bad guy.
Yeah, it's power hungry.
He wants to, bond with his son and rule the galaxy. I'll kind of rewrite the galaxy because he doesn't want to walk among these people. He wants to, be the creator sort of thing.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to live in someone else's shadow.
And so, yeah, you feel pretty sorry for Star-Lord because, he's, I finally know who my dad is. They're bonding, they're playing catch. And, then he finds out not only was he his dad, but dad to millions of other different species that he's tried to, make children of.
Yeah, and then Star-Lord turns out to be the only one that's inherited has a connection with the powers of Ego, basically.
Yep.
And turns out that Ego is best dad.
No.
Yeah, going down into it, you're typical, they kill Ego. Star-Lord can't use his powers anymore because of this. Not that it really matters. Didn't really need him to begin with.
No, exactly. We loved him without it. So.
Yeah, the humor in this movie was spot on, but, it didn't always land, but generally at the time, I thought it was hilarious. The whole Pac-Man and the Rockman sort of thing.
Yep.
And but I think the big thing we want to get into is the end credit scenes.
Yeah, end credits. So there were 5, which would have to be a record by a mile, you think?
Mid credits and all that stuff.
But pretty rare you get 2.
First off, we have not in order, but we have teenage Groot.
Yep. So he's slowly growing up. He's hitting puberty, sitting there playing some games.
Well, a little bit of Peter's like, Yondu. Oh, besides that, Yondu's dead. He gets killed off, but just when you start liking him as a really good character, they kill him off. But,
oh man. Yeah, he went out on a high.
Yeah, but that leads us to the next credit scenes. He's kind of like his first crewmate, putting on the prototype headgear that Yondu had.
Yeah, trying to get the little quiver pen thing. He's trying to whistle that and get it to work. And,
he ends up stabbing Drax.
Impales Drax.
He's not a fan of that.
No.
Those were the two mellow sort of end credit scenes. Next we have, not in order, but Stallone's character. Surprisingly, he's in the movie, guys.
Yeah, we find out Yondu is pretty much an exiled Ravager, part of this crew. But then, after sacrificing himself and all that, they all get together for a Ravager funeral, as they put it, and, realize he was a good guy after all. He was, he didn't necessarily betray them, by his greed. He was just trying to do the right thing by Peter.
But who were Stallone and his gangs, characters?
Yeah, so we, they get together at the end, and by looking into it, they are the original lineup of the Guardians of the Galaxy in the comics.
Yeah, but they're very insinuating that they're getting back together for a bigger threat.
Yeah, whether they're going to be an actual part in this ongoing cinematic universe,
which
I don't know.
We'll probably see him again in the next credit scene, which is the Sovereign, the gold people. She's like, oh, the High Priestess is like, oh, her overlords are going to be like pissed at her, but she's created something that might please them.
Yeah, the ultimate being.
Yeah, it's in a cocoon, a little pod right now, but she's calling it Adam, and a little digging up, it's Adam Warlock.
Pretty big player in the Marvel and Guardians.
Yeah, he's kind of like a big player, like Doctor Strange, kind of godly sort of character. I don't know how they got to play him in this movie universe, but I think it's gonna be more of a villainous role.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I don't know,
like superiority complex of like pure,
like anti-hero kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
but probably won't see himself as the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna appear in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and that sort of per se, like on Earth and all that stuff with Iron Man. He's definitely gonna be like the next Guardians of the Galaxy villain, because this movie is really kind of standing on its own. Part of the thing, it's not really tying into Marvel Cinematic Universe too much. These events are going on and having to do with them only.
Yeah,
nothing ties into them. The last scene was Stan Lee with the Watchers, which everyone's saying that theory is that he's one of the Watchers returned to tell them all the stories and stuff.
Well, yeah, because he kept mentioning a few of the roles or jobs he's had, which are positions he's shown up in the cameos in movies. So
he's just explaining
cool.
it to them and like how excited he is, and they just walk away because they're getting tired of hearing him. But I don't know if he's one of them. But because he's like you guys are my lift home sort of thing. I think just a bit of a cameo, but
just a bit of fan service.
A bit of fan service. Weirdly enough, that was it for the credit scenes. I expected something. Thanos was in this movie. They just kept mentioning him. I expected like a really big credit scenes being the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Setting up like, I don't know, Spider-Man or like the next part of the Avengers, Thor. One big thing we noticed in the credits was that Jeff Goldblum was in the credits dancing.
Not in the movie.
Which is not in the movie. We're just like, wait, where's Jeff Goldblum? And
so it looks like they couldn't fit him in because there was obviously too many characters to focus on, and they didn't want to rush through him. So it looks like they put him in Thor.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I thought he was going to be in this movie, honestly. He was in the credits. I was like, oh, he's got to be in the end credits then. And he wasn't. The movie just ended with that scene.
A bit odd, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next Guardians a lot. I think it's going to be just as enjoyable as these two. I'm hoping it's a better story, though, than the second one.
What about a little Howard the Duck cameo?
Howard the Duck. I really hope he doesn't make another movie, like his own movie. There's rumors about that, but let's not go into that. But yeah, I really thought Jeff Goldblum's character was going to be in it. Guess we'll see him in Thor. That's coming out eventually. And yeah, nothing really story breaking in this movie because they don't really tie into the cinematic universe too much. Like Thanos wasn't in it for starters. Like the biggest reveal in this movie was Adam Warlock, and that's pretty much going to be a Guardians probably villain in the future.
Yep.
Story plotline.
Yeah, it was more just sort of looking at characters' backstories and, sort of explaining how they are. Like you find out Yondu was paid by Ego to pick up Peter. But then he sort of kept him in a way to look after him because Ego had ulterior motives.
This is kind of like the movie that probably should have been made before the first one, as opposed, because the first one really explore any of this stuff, which kind of made it better.
Yeah.
So this is more of a backstory sort of movie, but it had to be made at some point. But yeah, this is all we've got for this movie. Nothing groundbreaking in terms of story plot developments like the other films. A lot of Easter eggs and stuff, but nothing too groundbreaking. And yeah, anything you want to add?
I feel like even though Drax had heaps of humor, like they were just subtly, hinting that he's not just a big tough guy. Because you notice when Mantis puts, he's just staring out into the field, sort of glazed over, and she's touched him, and then she starts crying straight away.
Yeah, Drax is very much.
He's thinking of his.
He's kind of turned to the father figure of the crew, sort of thing. Like he's very much he's just a father figure sort of character now. Especially how he's holding that Mantis chick up in that one scene in the end.
Yep.
Sacrificing himself. So I think, but she didn't get. Nebula's going after Thanos still.
Yeah, she's still pretty grumpy, but you can understand why, considering every time she lost a little fight with Gamora, he'd rip something out and replace it with machinery to try and improve her.
Yeah, they painted Thanos in a darker light in this one, even though he wasn't in the movie. This movie was basically a giant backstory for everybody, even Thanos.
Yeah, it was sort of like taking a time out, and we're...
Yeah, that's what it was.
It's like a time out, and we're going to go over the plays for the upcoming plays in this universe, so here's a bit of this, that. We know what's going on.
Yeah, it's going through everything so it doesn't need to be explained in the next few movies, so they can just focus on the plot. This movie was just basically a giant downtime to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
But still very enjoyable.
Yeah,
I'd definitely be watching this again.
I still loved it as a comedy, but just not the best story out there.
I mean, yeah, if you enjoy the first one, you'll still enjoy this one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing wrong with it. But yeah, I think that's all we got time for this one.
Oh yeah, I think we've covered a majority of it without multiple watches at least.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, guys, if you enjoy this spoiler talk, let us know. We'll do a few more. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure to check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and Spreadshirt to see all the little cool things we do around here.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya.
See ya.